historically, that's been their cultural upbringing, to win without fighting. Coercion is an art with them. They have honed it up in any which way to the highest of levels. After 2008, there was a realization that they could do so, but probably Hu Jintao was not so strong enough to push it through. We rushed to make a fighter, we rushed to make a LOC or Lakshay, but we have not made a Galwan movie.
There was news, and it was covered by the mainstream media, that Indian YouTubers had been taken to Xinjiang.
In Australia, they own many newspaper agencies where no ad or no anti-Chinese thing can be published. So in Germany, so in South Africa.
Hollywood studios.
There was a Free Tibet flag. On top of the flag, they brought the back of Ranveer Kapoor to hide the flag. It's happened in India. So it is coercion any which way.
Cultural coercion also, sir. The line of actual control, there is no physical line. Like the line of control with Pakistan is actually a line.
The LAC itself is a doubtful term till the time two parties sit together and finalize it.
They have denied us patrolling in certain areas. Have we also denied the Chinese patrolling in some areas?
That's true.
We can't do that. We can't tell a person that no, you will spy for India, or you will give us the data. He'll say, "Maine deta aapko. I'll not share it with you." How does India deal with it, sir?
We must understand that there is a possibility of a war. It can be tomorrow. It can be after 10 years. It may not happen at all. Nobody has won a war by defense. You win by war by offense.
Hello friends, I am Gaurav Arya and you're watching Gap, the Gaurav Arya podcast. China has been in the news off and on. Sometimes there is Bangladesh and it gets pushed back. Sometimes there is this whole Palestine issue between Israel and Hamas. It gets pushed back. Then there is Russia and Ukraine. It gets pushed back. But it keeps on coming back as a centerpiece of conversation in Indian drawing rooms and across the world. In our inaugural edition of the Chanakya Diaries, it was a wonderful article. I wish we were selling this magazine. Currently we are not, but it's a wonderful article, and today I have the author of that article with me, Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma. He was GOC 14 Corps. Ladies and gentlemen, 14 Corps is the corps that takes care of the entire Ladakh area, and he is the person to talk to if you want to talk about China. So Jai Hind, sir, and a very warm welcome, sir.
Thank you, Gaurav, for inviting me. And all the best for the podcast and for the new Chanakya Diaries.
Very kind, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, you wrote this article, sir, and I'd like to quote from this article for the benefit of our viewers, sir. China and the spectrum of coercion. And it starts with the premise that China regularly uses coercion as a geopolitical tool. Combined with deterrence, it becomes more deadly. Coercion can be diplomatic, economic, military, or even the simple threat of military force. Just by threatening military force, not actually doing it. Yeah. So, sir, can you please, to our viewers, explain what exactly coercion is and how China does it, sir?
So, Chinese are masters in coercion. So, if you go back to the history also, we know Sun Tzu said, best way to win is without fighting. And then later on, Zhuge Liang, who was in the 11th, 12th century, said the same thing, that, best is to win without fighting. Then they had subsequently the book written about unrestricted warfare, which also said about similar things. So historically, that's been their cultural upbringing, to win without fighting. And to win without fighting, they go in any manner that they can coerce. Ostensibly, they keep saying, okay, we don't coerce anybody. But coercion is an art with them. They have honed it up in any which way to the highest of levels. So now you can say geopolitically, economically, militarily, or informationally, or any which way, they have a systemic created in which they can coerce and get that being done. And I can start with the basic one example, which is Australia. Now see, Australia in 2021 said, okay, let's investigate as to where did the COVID come from, the Wuhan crisis, you remember those things happened.
Yes, sir.
And in November 21, the Chinese decided, okay, we'll sort out Australia. So what did they do? They said no more wine. Australian beautiful wines. And they were selling 50% of their wines across to China. Sure. Then there was also beef, there was barley, there was coal, and there were students. Student is also a matter of earning. People, yes. Students who go to Melbourne University or Monash or whatever, all stopped. November 21, they said nothing. wine industry came down to knees. It took about a year and a half before the Prime Minister visited, Australian Prime Minister visited China, and the Chinese Premier came here, and they were able to resolve it because they knew they just could not survive without it. So all that investigation into Wuhan and all that COVID died away because finally economics on the country. So just by, and I can give large number of examples like this, Chinese coercion is an art by itself. And it actually comes out later in history as to this was a coercion that they were doing. And, so we need to understand, and we can now relate it to any one of these actions that they carry out as to this is a coercion in which they wish to mean business across in the world.
So, but also, sir, to have that level of coercion, like you said, Sun Tzu said, the art of, fighting is actually to win without fighting, or words to that effect. And then philosophers and military thinkers and strategists in China have said this very often. Same iterations of what Sun Tzu said, sir.
Yeah.
More than 2 millennia ago. But don't you think for that you need to have that kind of power where people take your loaded gun seriously? For example, sir, I was on the line of actual control in that Poo area, sir, sugar sector area, in the 90s, sir, mid to late 90s, sir. I was there, and we had I will not say friendly, sir, but we had amicable relations with the Chinese. They were not this aggressive, sir. And I remember waving to them, and I remember them waving back and all that, sir. I remember all of that from a distance. We used to patrol our areas, and they would patrol their areas, etc. And there was no offensive action during my time. And I would not even imagine. Even then, George Fernandes, at that time the defense minister, he said that the real threat is China, and everybody made fun of him.
Correct.
Kyunki agle saal Kargil ho gaya, sir.
Correct.
They said defense minister knows nothing. He's talking about the Chinese being the real threat here. But it seems that he was not wrong. Yeah. He was right in the sense that, so don't you think you need that level of power? Was China at that point in time, sir, actually building up its power, keeping quiet and building up, sir?
So what you hit the nail on the head. When did the Chinese realize that we had the power to do all this? So there has to be we have to reach the pinnacle. Of course, we know it is when Deng Xiaoping started his way, relaxation of economic policies and the whole culture change. But it's after they joined the WTO in 2001 that they actually came into the circuit of international trade in a manner in which they could make major difference across there. 2008 told them that, look, while the world economies had gone tottering down when the economic meltdown took place, but the Chinese stood firm, steady and safe. So 2008 onwards, Chinese was actually, they knew that they have now reached some place. So while we can say so that the aims of the Chinese may be long drawn, maybe 60 years, 80 years, 70 years since they got independent, but they waited till the time they reached that place to wield the stick. And this is after 2008 when they came to know that, okay, they have the power and power to reckon with to able to coerce it. And they did so. So, you're right to say that we have been having treaties with them from 93 onwards. You were in sugar sector.
Sure.
All the other, we've been deployed on the LAC number of times. And, even if we met, we later on after 93, the banner drills, shake hands, exchange a cup of tea, make a little joke around and come back. It was all right. Yeah, it was all right. Even if after 2008, when the Gutham Gutha, fisticuffs and skirmishes became a little more prolonged, but they were still amicable and they would withdraw back. By 2012, they thought we have reached it. We are there. After 12 onwards, when you start reading into this systemic changes, I'm not saying the number of incursions, that mathematics and the statistics are not important. It's the typology of skirmish that takes place that is more important. 2013, 12, you recollect,
sure.
President Xi Jinping took over.
Yes, sir, yes.
In the month of October, he became General Secretary, sure. And in March, he became the President. Sure. And he became President, lo and behold, in the month of April, there was 22-day standoff in Depsang, first one. But now, that actually rightly they're tapping on our doors to tell us.
People don't even remember that there was a standoff in Depsang, sir. If you ask people today.
Yeah, and 22 days. Yes. First time a 22-day standoff. And then, later on, in later half of 2014, there was a 6-week thing in Chumar. where we moved a number of battalions across there to stop them making a road that they were building into the area of Chuman. So if you start counting this and come down to a 72 day in 2017, if you start counting, there is a transformatory change into their behavior which came up after 2012. And that's the time they said, okay, enough. And we signed one treaty after that also, one agreement. Sure. The BDCA we signed in 2013 October. But it made no difference because they had already done one 22-day thing. With Asubi, and if you recollect the 22-day thing, Depsang, we did a quid pro quo, and that forced the Chinese to withdraw. So, it happened like that. But I would say that after 2008, there was a realization that they could do so. But probably Hu Jintao was not so strong enough to push it through. And President Xi, who was the earlier vice president, and he was heading the think tank of the CCP, he was came at the right time when the Chinese had reached that glory. So they were able to push things ahead, became more forceful against Taiwan and East and South China Sea. So the transformatory process is in this century, and more so after 2008.
So I'd like to request you to expand a little more on diplomatic and economic coercion. You write also about other countries in Europe. I think Norway was one example. Yeah. And then you give a very beautiful phrase. I think I don't remember it exactly, but it says something like lie low and bide your time or things like that. And you said that this has been the Chinese philosophy that when you're not there on top, just keep quiet, bide your time. Yeah. Like in Fauj, we says a lie dogo. Yeah. Keep quiet. So
I said in the same sentence, I said, that, bide your time. Bide your time is finito. Sure. That's what I wrote in the article. Yes. So I said, it was biding time for a very long time. They were biding time from 1949 onwards. They kept biding their time till the time they know, okay, we have reached a place that we can take on issues and we have the capacity to take on countries. And in many ways, the economic tying up, the buying or purchasing influence globally started by when they joined WTO. So they were already gradually, and it may not be called BRI, but the precursor to BRI was economic coercion in many forms in many countries, which is already happening.
BRI is economic coercion, sir.
BRI is totally coercion. BRI is actually purchasing influence. It's of course, to purchase influence, you have to do something. So they are doing something. But actually, BRI becomes a way of coercion of those countries to support the stand of the Chinese in whichever way they want to do it. And 150 odd countries which attended the BRI forum recently. Last year. So, it actually made a tremendous amount of difference. So the biding time was biding time up to a time, then finished. And one can give so many examples of them doing it. Or South Korea has been a receiving end of the Chinese stick substantially. What happened is that South Korea decided on THAAD. THAAD is that missile defense.
Yes, sir.
Missile defense.
Yes, sir.
When they said THAAD, they had, I think, 99 Lotte malls inside China. Sure. And the South Korean film industry has come very good. We say Bollywood, sure, but South Korean has got a fantastic film industry, very good singers, rock and all that. Yes, sir. They used to big sessions in China. The minute they said THAAD, they said, okay, Lotte malls, wind up. You have firefighting issues. All 99 of them closed. And nobody to come from South Korea for all those movies and all the things like that. This is great amount of coercion, yeah. You can't imagine film industry, yeah. Any film industry, even I will talk Indian film industry also. Sure. But I'd say Hollywood. Because Chinese have over 70,000 screens. So Dangal, Indian movie, sure, was sold in China for 1,300 crores. It made 1,300 crores from China. You think Indian film industry will make an anti-Chinese movie? And there are so many of Indian films which have made money out there. So we rush to make a fighter, we rush to make a LOC or Lakshay, but we have not made a Galwan movie. Have we? No. Because the films are sold in China. Minute they say, okay, we will not buy any film, we will not exhibit it, the industry packs up, yeah. Because they make...
The Chinese market is close to you, sir.
Exactly the point. And our films are much like there, and the films are sold. That film, I forget which one, that Salman Khan took a child across to Pakistan and to meet a parent.
Bajrangi sir.
Huh.
Yes, Bhaijan.
Bajrangi Bhaijan. Bajrangi Bhaijan was sold in, for over 1,000 something crores. Now you say that if they say, okay, we will not buy, we will not say, the industry suffers quite a bit. So it is just an art. Rockstar is a movie where Rockstar, in the initial when the movie was made, I think Ranveer Singh, Ranveer Kapoor,
The other one.
Ranveer Kapoor. Ranveer Kapoor had a visual across in Dharamshala. It was shot in Dharamshala when he was a rock star singer, and the crowd there showed a banner "Free Tibet." Now it was shot. Subsequently, the movie was doctored, where the Free Tibet word was removed, erased, and there was a Free Tibet flag. On top of the flag, they brought the back of Ranveer Kapoor to hide the flag. It's happened in India, so it is coercion any which way.
Cultural coercion also, sir.
This is culture. I mean, you say economic coercion or you say cultural coercion, but it is coercion, all right. So I would say that they would, explain to me, if they fight out to say that the terrorists of the Pakistanis, which are being declared as terrorists by even United States, are not allowed to be declared terrorists by the United Nations Security Council.
Sure.
The Chinese put a veto to this. A terrorist is a terrorist. He's a recognized terrorist across in the world, but they will, on political reasons, say no, it can't be done because he doesn't follow the parameters of being a terrorist. That's political coercion. They might accept it after 3-4 saying no, and then they get caught into the UN procedures and they say, okay, fine. But for everything, this is a kind of, we cannot join the NSG because of the objections raised by China. It's a political coercion in any which way. So, when you say they have honed the art and specialized it into coercing countries.
Even this three warfare strategy, sir. It'll be great, sir, if you can tell our viewers about this three warfare strategy and how it dovetails into this entire idea of Chinese coercion, sir.
So you say, firstly, they have great system of passing laws and acts. So the three warfare strategy, the political strategy, the lawfare, and the legal issue.
Yes, sir, media and everything.
Media and things. Now, if you say lawfare, now for example, I say Philippines. Now the Philippines went to court against to the International Court of Arbitration as a legal case, saying that look, this Spratly Islands and the second Thomas Shoal belongs to us. It was fought in the court, and the Philippines won the case.
Sure.
But the Chinese said, sorry, bad luck. You may have won the case. We do not recognize this legal decision. So it's behind us. They passed and look at the laws that they have passed as lawfare in the course of last 3-4 years. Border law, Coast Guard law, cyber law. There are a whole lot of laws that they passed. It is just trying to tell us that, okay, yeah, this is a law, it is an authority with us, and we will handle this as per our legal constitutional law.
So, sir, the Chinese, I beg your pardon, sir, the Chinese do not consider international law, in the sense that if that international law overrides Chinese law, in that case, Chinese law is, it takes primacy, sir. Yeah. Is that true, sir?
Exactly. So they say, no, whatever we say, whatever left to us by our forefathers is our territory. Now, their forefathers have not told us what they left from them. So the forefathers say that the South China Sea belongs to them. That becomes, now it becomes a sovereignty issue to them. It's not a territorial. They say we are a sovereign country. See their sovereign map. They show Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin as part of their territory. Also, the complete South China Sea. It's a map that they've shown, the territory. It is an absolutely clear message being saying that, look, this is our territory left to our forefathers. This is sovereign territory. Now, anything, and as per their law, it is essential for them to protect their territory. It becomes a simple case of following their laws. And the new law, which said non-war military activities. Okay. When we were younger, we used to call MOOTW, military operation other than war. They had something like this in 2007, 2008 called military operation other than war. But then they came up a year and a half ago with this non-war military activities. they now have an ambit of everything which comes under non-war military activity. So if they put villages next to our borders, it's a non-war military activity. They change the culture of a border by forcing populations to move across to the borders and thereby making it a de facto habitated area.
Yes.
And so they have now changed the culture of that border.
Sure.
And we have a treaty 2005 which refers to habitated areas, etc.
Correct.
Now, it is their law. So they say, yeah, it's lawfare. You pass a law. If the Chinese send 1,000 odd fishing boats into Indian Ocean, close to us, between Dago Garcia and India, let us say, and they send it. They send this large quantum of shipping vessels, fishing vessels there. Now it is part of their lawfare. It is their coastal law. It is their fishing law. Militia has got a separate law. Now they say, look, we are going there for fishing in open waters. It is as per a law. So it is law. Say they pass a law and then enforce it in wherever they want to enforce it. And which of these fishing vessels have got ulterior motives, God alone knows. So, they're strategically, they have actually brought the art of coercion to a different level altogether.
Sir, I would like to take you to the line of actual control because that is what generally everybody who reads your articles, that is one understanding that you would know the line of actual control extremely well because you've been posted there, you are GOC 14, sir. So, understandably. Now, a lot of people do not know that the line of actual control, there is no physical line. Like the line of control with Pakistan is actually a line. The line of actual control is not a line, it is perceptional. They think it is this, we think it is that. Now, when China says that there is a certain petrol point that China wants to pressurize, it is again that it is essentially for them not land grab. For them, the way they sell it to their people or their own army or the PLA is that these are sovereignty issues. And this is our land that India has occupied. That is the way they're saying it, sir. How does India solve this problem of the line of actual control? Because like you very rightly said, there is no physical line. Haven't we gotten around solving it after 76 years?
So, very potent question, Gaurav. Now, the fact is that a line makes it between two parties. So, you have a house, I have a house, there's a line, sanctified, registered with some party. International borders are international borders, which are accepted internationally. Now, when we had Shimla Agreement, so we had the line of control where General P.S. Bhagat from our side and General Hamid from the Pakistani side went through from Sangam right up to AGPL and then 9842. And they delineated the line. They converted into 29 odd mosaics, which were converted into 18 maps. Every inch of the territory from Sangam to AGPL was delineated and demarcated on ground.
Everybody. 18 maps were signed.
Each one was signed. There are stamps.
Sir.
Units who are there have a map of this kind, which shows them exactly where the line of control is.
So before I proceed further, may I interject and ask you, sir, were these maps violated during the Kargil war by Pakistan?
Yeah, indeed.
They were the maps.
Indeed. Indeed. Again, Kargil war, now we are going over a different border. Prior to Kargil war, there was a thought process of holders, keepers. Whoever occupies which territory becomes his. Despite the fact that the LOC was designated, it was delineated and demarcated. It was finished. Still, whoever could occupy it was there was this war in Glacier, Bana Top, and there have been bat actions to occupy posts off and on in this border of line of control. So, despite the fact it was signed, it was still holders keepers. Kargil, which was actually they crossed the line of control and occupied our areas, and when we pushed them back, we finished the thought process of holders keepers.
Sure.
In 1990, we said, no. If you are holding the post and you occupy it, we will reserve the right to attack you and take the post back.
I'm asking because that was your area, sir.
Yeah. Kargil was my area.
Yes, sir.
So, Kargil, was violated in a manner, the line of control, but we actually answered that issue in firm manner, saying that holders keepers doesn't apply out here. There is no holder keeper. We will reserve the right to occupy it. In case of Chinese line of control, Chinese came out. See, firstly, we must grudgingly accept that the British played many games in pre-independent and decided many lines, and they actually promulgated none. And they did not sign. China was not even a neighbor with us. There was Tibet and there was Xinjiang. Sure. So, China was not a neighbor. So Chinese were called in the 1914 Shimla, the conference took place. But
72, sir?
No, sir. No. 1914.
1914, sir?
Yeah. 1914, there was a Shimla conference in between a Tibetan rep, a Chinese rep, and Sir McMahon.
All right. Okay, sir. Now I understand. Yeah. Okay, sir. Now I understand.
So, Sir McMahon is referring to only to Arunachal Pradesh, that border.
Sir.
And it carried forward across to Myanmar also. The McMahon line,
sir,
which was the watershed. And it was on a very broad map, so it was not a very finely marked thing. Sir. There was no demarcation of the Aksai-Chin and the eastern Ladakh border, except that Johnson line was there in 1862, and subsequently it became Johnson-Ardagh line in 1898. And then there was another British two people, MacDonald Macartney, make another line. So one followed Kunlun range, one followed Karakoram range. All this was confusion that was handed over. So at the time of our independence, Chinese got independence 2 years later.
Sure.
But there was just no line. There was no border. Sure. At some time, we decided, okay, we'll accept the Johnson line. When we decided Johnson line goes across to Kunlun range, which includes the entire Aksai-Chin with us. But meanwhile, the Chinese occupied Xinjiang first, and then they occupied Tibet, and they became our neighbors. They were not our neighbors at all. Sure. Now when they became our neighbors, they started building the road through Aksai-Chin, which you all know the history. And 1959, with no logic, no rationale, no historical evidence, they came up with something called 1959 line, some detail of which was provided in 1960. That 59 line they've been quoting us to now in 2020 onwards also, same 59 line, which came as part of a Chawanlai letter to Pandit Nehru. The fact is that there is actually no line per se. So there was a line which we were holding on 7th of September 1962 when we went for the war. Then after the war, the thing changed. The Chinese occupied Aksai-Chin and they came and occupied some line out here. Now after 62, we have been dilly-dallying this issue of demarcating a line between two countries. There were no diplomatic relations till 70s when we decided to make patrolling points in Aksai-Chin. And we made 1 to 65 patrolling points. It was through 826 kilometers of area, sure, from west of Karakoram Pass right up to off Chumar. Sure. These patrolling points became the limit of patrolling. Now, Chinese had not stated till the time what is their line. They said 1959 line, but 1959 line had no logic, no rationale. You just can't draw a line on a map, say, "Mera border ye hua." That's not the way borders are demarcated between countries. Sure. So we de facto took the areas close to the limit of patrolling, which is the patrolling points, as close to LAC. Anytime the Chinese patrol had gutham gutha with us, and we start learning out their perception. They said, okay, you are so many kilometers ahead of your area. So we said, no, this is our line patrolling point. Our patrolling point. They didn't have patrolling points. But they used to do gutham gutha. No, he says, you are 3 kilometers ahead of us. So gradually over a period of time, we start thinking, inka perception kya hai? What do they think of line of actual control? So you start drawing a perception. That's a perceptional line. So our line has no relevance to them. Their line, we don't know, they have not shared, but we perceive that their line is something. So, you can't have a line of actual control, which we signed in 1993, the Peace and Tranquility Treaty, which we said there will be a line of actual control. There was probably a hope that we will sit down together and demarcate and delineate a line. Probably that thought process may have been there in 1993. Sure. And I think once or twice the delegations met also. I think 2001 or something they met and to decide, and nothing came forward. So there is actually the doubt on what is the line. So when we talk about a line of actual control, we say either the watershed in the east, which is also, contentious, and then we say the area of line of actual control, which we believe is the patrolling points, which are not acceptable to the Chinese. Therefore, line of actual control per se, the LAC itself, is a doubtful term till the time two parties sit together and finalize it.
Unlike Pakistan, where everything is sorted.
Where it is mapped, every CO
Every CO.
gets a map,
Sure.
which is stamped, it is signed by General P.S. Bhagat and signed by General Hamid, and you can follow inch by inch the entire territory. This is my territory. Here there is all perceptional basis. And the issue of perceptions got dragged so far that every time you say, sir, this is my line of actual control, this is my Chinese perceptional line, the perceptions became a common usage term.
During briefing, sir.
It was always perception. So when you see a map, you see so many lines. You see, you have to start from one side. So this is Johnson line, this is McDonald line, this is a line of, this is a 7th September line, this is a line of actual control as per us and patrolling point. This is we feel Chinese perception, this Chinese 59 line. So the map is full of lines. So line of actual control per se became a problematic issue to even discuss here.
Sir. Because you always, if you say that we are going to discuss this line, then that line gets violated because every line is different, sir.
Absolutely.
So, sir, these Chinese coming up and these watershed you mentioned, so watershed areas and also. So, we don't have a view today into the Tibetan plateau.
So, let's not generally say, see, in the sector that you were there, sugar sector,
sir.
or the central sector, which is Barawati and the areas of Shipkala Pass, all
Yes,
these. And
I was Company Commander Shipkila, sir.
okay, very nice,
Sir.
beautiful area.
Yes, sir.
And then, of course, you go across to Sikkim and Eastern and Arunachal Pradesh. Now, you see, we used to sit in some patrolling points, some areas of the watershed, and we used to monitor many areas by patrolling. After 2020, these areas, and I'm not talking about Ladakh now,
Sure.
I'm talking the balance of the line of actual control.
Sure.
We have now reached on top of the line of actual control and protecting. That's because of total distrust. It is so much of distrust that we know that if we allow him an inch, they'll come and sit down. Now we are sitting right on top. So we have a view into the Tibetan plateau from where we can see it. Maybe it is in Sikkim or even in Arunachal Pradesh. And from Yangtze, where the thing happened,
Correct.
we are on the watershed. So we have a vision there. On eastern Ladakh, there are two major rivers. The Shyok River, then in between the Pegongso, and then the Indus River down south.
Sure.
Now, the tallest range close to the river actually becomes the watershed here. So, the range which is closest to Shyok River, which comes from close to Karakoram Pass, and Daulat Beg Oldie, which
Yes,
Galwan and all
Yes,
that,
sir.
that the last tip of that range, with Chinese are now where they have created buffers.
Sure.
So they sit on top, so we don't have probably an excess of patrolling into Depsang Plateau, which we used to patrol as part of our patrolling points. That's been denied to us in this 2020. So they sit on a kind of great wall, one more great wall. It's a tip of that plateau, and as the area falls down, we are now sitting very close to the tip of the plateau, but that's a buffer is being created. So a belt of actual control. Instead of line, it becomes kind of a belt of actual control.
Sure.
And they are sitting on top, so they are denying us access across of patrolling where we used to patrol onto the Aksai Chin or Depsang Plateau, and that is now not been done. So that's the issue. So the watershed of Shyok River and the watershed of Indus River, which is the Kailash range. Not the Kailash range which we occupied,
Sir.
but the Kailash range takes off from there and goes close to Mansarovar. It's a very long range.
So, with your permission, sir, I'd just like to interject. So, you're saying that they have denied us patrolling in certain areas. Have we also denied the Chinese patrolling in some areas, sir?
That's true. So if we say we take the 1959 line,
Sure.
so then the 1959 lines at places comes down the ridge line, down the tip of the plateau,
Sure.
down to way down. Like for example, in the area of Rakinala, which Depsang talks about. They said their area is up to Burtse post. Burtse is an ITBP post there. So it is way down here now. Since we have also blocked them upstairs, so they are not able to go to Burtse, which they used to patrol earlier.
So some areas they have denied, some areas we have denied, sir.
Absolutely. So there is a issue here that we have also denied. The Chinese they claim claim the entire Arunachal Pradesh.
Yes, sir.
What happens about their claims doesn't matter at all. So we are now sitting on the watershed all along in Arunachal Pradesh and denying them, okay, you can keep demanding and keep changing names, 62 names change. How does it matter? You can change any name. I would change the name of Beijing here. So the point is the changing names doesn't matter, but we are sitting now in a finite areas at close to the line of actual control, which we deem it is a watershed in Arunachal Pradesh. And on the Ladakh side, we have this buffers, which creates an abnormal situation, which has been often been stated by us.
So, there have been various theories about this coercion thing, so which I'd like to share. And not that you have mentioned it, I'm sort of offering this from my side, that you keep on reading that, in the media also, there are so many channels or platforms which are funded by the Chinese through ads. So a Chinese product ad, these many crores, take it.
Correct.
So obviously that media house is not going to say anything against the Chinese. So you don't take a stand against your client. That is the understanding in business. Correct. So a few months back there was news, and it was covered by the mainstream media that Indian YouTubers had been taken to Xinjiang. Correct. All expenses paid, 5-star hotel, business class, first class, money given. Don't worry, come with us. And they came back with glowing reports how much China had progressed, and there was nothing happening in Xinjiang, and everybody was happy, and the Uyghur Muslims were fantastic. Is this also part of media warfare, sir?
So I think in line with what they have done, they have a systemic change into information worldwide. It is not us alone.
Sure.
We can talk us.
Sure.
But they own, for example, in Australia, they own many newspaper agencies where no ad or no anti-Chinese thing can be published. So in Germany, so in South Africa,
Hollywood studios, sir. Hollywood studios, sir.
So Hollywood studio, when the last time Hollywood made anti-Chinese movie was 1999.
Sure.
It was Dalai Lama,
sir.
And the movie was someone life in Tibet or something.
Sure.
And they said, okay, they banned the movies in 99. And the Columbia Pictures boss CEO flew down to China, say, जैसे हम गुरखाली बोलते हैं ना गलती भयो we did a mistake, yes, sorry, we will not do it again. From that date till date, they have never made an anti-Chinese movie because the movies are all sold across in China. So, in India, 2-3 years ago, the Daily Hunt, most people who don't see news get news from Daily Hunt, like in shorts you get, na?
Shorts, yes, sir.
In Daily Hunt pushes you information. Now, Daily Hunt was 2.5 million Indians were watching Daily Hunt every day to get their gist of news. People don't have time to read. Daily Hunt was a Chinese-owned media house. And last year, NewsClick also came in, something like NewsClick also, one more.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Yeah, so these are owned by the Chinese.
Yeah, that Purkayas, the person was NewsClick. There was a case against him also, sir.
Correct. Yes. Daily Hunt last year was sold across to somebody else. It went across to to a Canadian or somebody who bought it. You don't know who's behind which money. But see, they will never produce anything anti-China, and most people are absorbing it. In fact, most of these just being produced. I remember seeing one of these journalists writing very fine articles about China, and he was Sharma. So I got kind of affinity. I said, who is this gentleman? But very fine article, glorious articles about China being written about him. Sure. So, when you start reading into the media, I think they have actually done fantastic work in the global media by the United Works, the department that they have, who have now purchased media in a way that anti-China publicity has been. See, the Hello app. I don't know whether you read about Hello app. Last election, 2019, general elections, there was a Hello app. Hello app took 10,000 advertisements in India which were anti the government. and they were publicized. And nobody, you watch an advertisement, you say, okay, opposition party ne diya hoga. Then somebody actually started checking up, yeah, who is this Hello app who is giving advertisements against the ruling party?
Sure.
And they came across and say, okay, yeah, this Hello app belongs to ByteDance. ByteDance are the owners of TikTok.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They purchase advertisements. So this is electoral manipulation. And India, and in this year elections, if you follow and read into it, the Microsoft and Meta have sacked employees in India for giving out information, which, I mean, as you gather, things are not clear.
Sure.
But 150 odd people sacked in India for giving out adverse publicity, kind of electoral manipulation. It's cognitive warfare.
Yes,
it is hitting our minds.
Sure.
So the Chinese are now in big cognitive warfare in this manner, to say, trying to cognitively affect the minds of the electoral. And this is not India alone. Worldwide it happens. We know about the election between Hillary Clinton and Trump, when they said the Russians had bought a whole lot of that time Twitter handles and all adverse publicity against Hillary took place. So it happens worldwide. But we are also affected in this manner of the psychological targeting being carried out by the Chinese in this manner.
Sir, just like I'd like to narrate an incident that happened with me, sir, a few years back. Before I came into the media, I was working with a company, and the chairman sent me to China, sir. So I've visited China many, many times, and so ideally we used to go to Hong Kong. From there we would go to Guangzhou, sir, because by road, sir, it'll take some time. You reach Guangzhou, lovely roads. Fantastic. You reach Guangzhou, and so we were discussing things with a company, sir, whose name I will not take, sir. We were discussing things, possible tie-up, and another person was standing there, and there was another company, not this one, but another company along with them. Same room, we were sitting down having a cup of tea, and we were discussing so many other things. And I just casually asked the other person that, your company, ownership and all, and everybody went quiet. And then I felt that maybe it was an insulting question, and I changed track. And then my Indian person there, who was translating for us, sir, he had spent quite a lot of time, and he said, I will discuss with you, Gaurav, I'll tell you separately. And later on, sir, when we were back in Hong Kong, because I was supposed to take the flight from Hong Kong, he says, there are many Chinese companies that you would recognize as brands. और अगर आप पीछे चले जाएंगे और आप इनकी ownership देखेंगे, somewhere along the way you will find PLA, sir. Somewhere along the way you will find Chinese intelligence. So the PLA actually owns companies.
No, they have a law. They have a law that states that all private and government enterprises working outside China, sure, will provide requisite data across to the government. So you can be a private, CCCC. There's a corporation called CCCC, which does makes ports. Sure. Now, if they own a port in say Greece, sure, they also own the logistics, which means the container starts from inland somewhere in Europe, and is brought across to the port in Greece, and then it is sent on a particular ship. They know what's in the container, because the CCCC, which is a private corporation, is not a government entity. They will feed the data back to the motherland or fatherland, whatever they call it, and they know exactly who is buying what stuff from where and where is being transported. Yeah? So they own 100 ports. 100 ports, including they have stake in Los Angeles, they have stake in Miami, they have 14 ports along the Indian Ocean rim, where the entire trade data is being, by law, transported across to China for taking advantage, whichever way they wish to take so.
How does India deal with this then, sir? I mean, we cannot coerce our citizens. Like even citizens who go to the US, they are briefed, sir. If they desire, they can brief them, and they, people can go. There have been cases where Chinese tourists have gone near an American airbase and started clicking photographs. So they brief everybody and all that. But we can't do that. We are a democracy, sir. वो कर सकते हैं ना? वो तो they're a dictatorship or whatever. They're communists. We can't do that. We can't tell a person that no, you will spy for India, or you will give us the data. He'll say, मैं नहीं देता आपको. I'll not share it with you. How does India deal with it, sir? And one more thing that you mentioned long back, sir, we were having a conversation, and you said, Gaurav, it's not feasible to have an exact mirror deployment going forward you must find ways and means by which you can leverage your own current strength against China to the best of your ability. You can't go aircraft carrier to aircraft carrier and gun to gun. That is not feasible in the long run, sir. I would request your answer on this.
So to the second one, look, the art of war fighting, whether it's peacetime or in war, the art of war fighting is to address the weaknesses of your adversary, not his strengths. So to address his weaknesses, you have to actually list out his vulnerabilities. Now, when you think about his vulnerabilities, then you start contemplating how can you asymmetrically take advantage of warfare by targeting the asymmetrical and the weaknesses that the adversary might have. Because what's our strength? Our strength is a border. We have fought mountains from our childhood. It's in our blood there. We fought it in 47, 48. We fought it in 62. We fought it in Kargil, in those dizzy heights. Mountains we will fight because we know the defense and we know the offense. We captured Hajipir earlier. It's not that we are... So, that's a strength. The Chinese ought to know our strength also. That this is the strength. They will also know our weaknesses. We have to now contest it asymmetrically, and I don't think this is the forum to say, but I can delineate about, say, 10 odd Chinese weaknesses. And if I delineate 10 odd weaknesses, then I think we can start preparing to address those weaknesses which we can take advantage of. So, what I'm saying is that if we know how the Chinese, now how do we address the kind of overall coercion that the Chinese have been doing?
Sir, about PLA owning companies.
China, yeah. Okay, the Chinese, so look, let's be clear. They are the largest manufacturing nation in the world. They are the second largest economy. PPP terms, the highest. They crossed USA in 2014. So, and they have made masters in green technology. They are masters. There is nobody, no peer close by, whether it is solar cells or it is BYD, e-vehicles, EVs, or any kind of technology which refers to this one. They are masters and they own the world market. Now, if we have a $100 billion trade, as you are aware. Chinese supplies $100 billion worth of goods every year. There are many things that the Chinese can coerce us with, but they have not been coercing, but they can do so. We need to plan as to how to protect ourselves from a coercion that might take place tomorrow or after 10 years, or may never take place. But then Chinese are masters in coercion, which we see, Norway, you refer to Norway.
Yes, sir.
A gentleman got a Nobel Prize. So they had a 6-year diplomatic ban against Norway, and say we will not buy any shrimps for 6 years, which actually sorted out the shrimp industry of Norway. It's a small issue, sure. But what happens is it changes the economics here. We got to decide as to, and not only that what Chinese produce, what Chinese supply chains produce or their assets produce in many other countries, like maybe Indonesia or Malaysia or Vietnam, or Bangladesh, where the Chinese financial investments actually produce many things which we tend to buy, thinking is a producer of Bangladesh or a producer of... So the supply chains have become so intricate that, you can't get out of the Chinese influence at all. So to say that you can just divest yourself from Chinese economic is not possible. We have to now delineate why should you buy, for example, I'll say agarbatti. We should produce agarbatti in India. Why should you import agarbatti or toys? Of course, now we have a toys law passed in India, I think 2 years ago, but we was buying wholesale toys from China. Sure. So, let's say that, there are many things that you can do within India. Let's do within India. Why should you buy a clock in a house from China? Let's decide. Furniture, whole lot of furniture. So, we have to now delineate each item. We can't get out of not APIs for the pharma industry. You're required to make an antibiotics till the time you establish your own physical infrastructure of making APIs, or there are equipment for nuclear plants, boilers and things like that, which just you can't survive without taking the Chinese goods, or for the green energy. if we have to give the target that we have given ourselves, meet the target of 2030, we have to go and rely on the Chinese solar panels and things, and also maybe Chinese expertise. The people who make those things, we have to finally require, because we don't have that kind of skill. Either we train our people, skill our people, or we require the Chinese expertise. So we have to now start thinking intelligently in a manner that this we can't get out, and this we must try and get out, and what items where we can be coerced in time, and how will we have alternatives ready. So a game plan is essential, and I'm sure masters must be thinking each item wise the game plan of tomorrow. If we get coerced on which item, how do we get around, because for the purpose of finally it is all economy. Militaries also depend upon the economy. The nation has to become $5 trillion, $10 trillion to get the per capita income of our men, of our people, of the country rise. Because till the time we become, say, $10,000 or $12,000 per capita income, we won't be even a middle income group, to middle income country. And to reach that level, it's all economy. And to get the economy rising, maybe it's a great paradox we are stuck into. We have to ride on the shoulders of the trade with Chinese, despite the fact that we have an issue on the borders which will remain like this.
So my last question to you, sir, is do you think a conflict with China is coming, not today, not 5 years, maybe 10 years down the line, if things keep on deteriorating? Because China will try and balance. And any army, let us talk about the Indian army, sir. Any army must de facto assume that there will be war. You can't assume that there will be no war. You have to assume there is war, especially with an adversary with whom you have gone to war earlier also. We've had 62 and also Nathula 67, sir. So we've had a major limited skirmish there, or a skirmish there, and a full-fledged war with the Chinese earlier. And also whatever is happening in Depsang or in Galwan, etc., sir. What is your assessment, sir? Do you think something is coming in the future?
So let me take a step back. Firstly, we have been historically faced treachery from our adversaries. Sure. And treachery in any which way. So whether it is Pakistan, the wars that we fought in Pakistan, sure, and Kargil, that Kargil happened at a time when Prime Minister Vajpayee was
in Lahore, sir.
Lahore,
yes, sir.
Minar-e Pakistan, in Lahore. Sir. And that's the time they were already occupying the heights of Kargil, or in the process of occupying. So that with 5 treaties signed with Chinese, what the Chinese have done in 2020 is solid treachery. Sure. Otherwise, we have only things to sort it out. Show banner drill, go back, shake hands, go back here. But they came here and refused to go back. So that's total treachery. Firstly, we have to protect ourselves from treachery. No faith, no reliance on. I personally feel that economic interaction, or even the treaties, we might sign another treaty or another agreement, have only a finite level against treachery. The adversaries can always take advantage of your being lulled into something like that. So that's one issue, is treachery. That's a peacetime connotation that we have to be prepared. And that also implies that it's not only that you have to defend the border. Unfortunate part is the borders are very tough, exceedingly tough. Shipkala, how tough it is to reach there. It's very tough. So now, with the toughness of borders, we have to still maintain that we are devoid of trust, and we have to retain ourselves there. Also retain reserves there. Look what happens in Yangtze. Then he got 200-300 people. Yeah, 200-300 people is nearly half a battalion strength. Yeah. So that's a substantial. Now you require reserves which are acclimatized, placed close by to take action in peacetime against any attempts made to target you. So one part of the story is that we have to be protected. So now second part is about the war. Firstly, there should be assurance to anyone. I'm not talking about the deterrence, the punitive deterrence or the dissuasive deterrence. Those terminologies are there important. But deterrence is always possible that it will fail. And if deterrence fails, it actually transcends itself to a war. So we have to prepare ourselves for deterrence, but also prepare for ourselves for that the deterrence might fail, and we may have to prosecute a war whenever it happens. The rationale why a war will happen is unimportant today. It can be any reason. It can be a flare-up. It can be escalation itself. But that's not important. Wars are messy affairs. And we must convince the adversary that we will make the war as messy as possible. So they understand. It's a question of social contract that the Chinese, that the PLA and the CCP has with the people of China, which is what they're most anxious about. Now, we must understand that there is a possibility of a war. It can be tomorrow. It can be after 10 years. It may not happen at all. But that actually enjoins the armed forces to be prepared for a war any one time and any time. War is not inevitable. But peace is also illusory. Peace is also not guaranteed. We are stuck into a cul-de-sac. We are now stuck into a place where we have to be prepared to fight a war any time, because we have already suffered what Chinese did earlier and Chinese did now. So the border is inviolable. One part of the story is to be prepared for the war on the border by combined action. The Army, Navy, Air Force, whatever. It has to be prepared. That's one part. Second part is technology. Now the Chinese, if you follow their writings, they've been studying all these Ukraine wars. We read what and Gaza and what happened in Nagorno-Karabakh or what happened in Iraq. So they are also students of warfare. And there is always a possibility of Chinese relying on technological wars of a kind where they may be targeting. So a definition of the word war needs great amount of broadening. When you and me talk war, we think about shooting wars.
Shooting wars.
Yeah, we say, okay, kinetic war, right? It's between one force and two nations. And the definition of war is like coercion is war. I mean, we might call it coercion, but if you bring the economy down of a nation like Australia to its knees, and then it had to succumb to pressures to come back into the, Australian ships were lying outside Shanghai Harbour for 1 year. Carrying coal. They said we will not download it. You can see how much of trouble they can cause. We have to be prepared for all types of action that can take place against us, which is not alone border shooting wars.
War by other means, sir.
Wars by all means.
All means.
Space. They have maximum number of missiles.
Sure.
If you see the writings, they say between missiles, both ballistic and cruise, they have 3,000 odd missiles, very large quantum, and good sophisticated missiles, or loitering ammunition, or cyber attacks, or AI, or whatever. You can count everything which is in modern warfare, and they are getting into quantum in a big way. That those manifestations will have to work it out separately, because a war may be only coercion.
Sure.
A war may be shooting, the end of it, and war may be in between. A political war, an economic war. These are wars. We actually rely on the Clausewitzian saying that war means between two nations and it's a violent action and all that. South China Sea was occupied by them, despite all countries objecting to it, without firing a shot.
So the nature of war has changed, sir.
So I would say the definition of the war has changed. The war cannot be defined in straight-jacketed terms of Clausewitzian model saying it is between nations and it's always violent in character.
Sure.
When nations can occupy, what is the Chinese doing to Taiwan? They are shooting over Taiwan, all around it, giving a threat of blockade being carried out, making life difficult for Taiwanese despite whatever they're doing. And they don't recognize any median line or whatever you might say. This is kind of coercion, a pressure being brought across onto a nation saying that you are in such kind of trouble. What I want to say is that we have to be prepared for a spectrum of coercion, from coercion to physical launching of war, and the vast gap in between, in all which ways. And nobody has won a war by defense. You win by war by offense.
Sure.
And victory itself is a difficult connotation, because nowadays you can't say how do you define a victory. Will Chinese define victory by capturing territory? Territory will fight to thin nail. We have the capacities to fight it. You can say Arunachal Pradesh is whatever, southern Tibet, this they can't take, because we have the capacity to fight out on the borders. But coercion in any manner, maybe it's cyber. If the Americans can be coerced by a cyber attack on colonial pipeline, which was supplying gas from Atlanta to the eastern seaboard, and for which ransom of $5 million was paid by the Americans, because they just could not break this cyber attack which came through. Only the people who did the cyber attack could break the cyber, the way pipelines were blocked.
Sure.
And they paid $5 million, of course. It was through blockchain and through various methods. The ransom was paid. We have to prepare for that defensives and that offensives, both sides, much beyond the border wars.
Thank you very much for speaking to us, sir. It was indeed a privilege and learned so much. Ladies and gentlemen, with Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, former GOC 14 Corps, and he mentions about how China diplomatically, militarily, economically indulges in coercion, and is not something that is new. It is not something that is 21st century. Over 2 millennia, this has been Chinese characteristics. These have been Chinese characteristics. How to coerce people, how to force people into doing something that they do not wish to do. I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and I'm going to be back again very soon with another special guest. Till then, take care. Jai Hind. Jai Hind, sir.
Thank you, Gaurav. All the best.
Thank you, sir.